Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and this evening we're going to be comparing Affliction and Destruction's upcoming damage buffs on Tuesday to Demonology, I guess to one another, and just seeing where they're currently at on PTR. Now, a few days ago, Blizzard announced a handful of tuning changes coming to range, DPS, melee DPS, basically everybody. Affliction's getting some pretty solid buffs. Destruction's getting some larger buffs. However, we'll go over the changes here in a minute. I want to clarify that the changes coming in on Tuesday to Affliction are just the percent damage buffs to Agony, Corruption, Drain Soul, all that stuff. They are not the talent changes that are coming in patch 10.0.5. Those are coming, I would assume, in 2 to 3 weeks whenever patch 10.0.5 hits. However, Destruction, all the changes that were listed in, the, I guess, blue post they put up a few days ago, they are all indeed coming on Tuesday. So with that being said, today we're going to look at them on PTR and compare the damage to one another in single target and compare them as well to, the current king being Demonology. Now, if you guys see any weak Warcraft add-ons or profiles in the video like they require, links to my Twitch and Discord down below where they are all indeed available to you guys for free. You can grab them all there for free if you want. And number two, I want to give one huge shout out to my patrons before we get too far in the video. Thank you guys for all support on Patreon a million times. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much, dudes. If you're looking at supporting on Patreon, should be a link up here as well as various social media links and things like that. With that being said, let's just jump right into it, briefly looking at the actual changes and then getting into the testing. So, I mentioned, off the bat, Affliction, Agony, Corruption, 5% each, Drain Soul, 10% each, Pandemic Invocation, 20%, Seed of Corruption, 5%, Shadow Bolt, 10%, Siphon Life, 10%, and this is a PvP thing. Now, as far as Destro is concerned, Channel Demon Fire, 10%, Rain of Fire, 15%, which is massive. It's actually been buffed multiple times from where it was on beta. It's been buffed many times, so maybe it's in a playable state at this point. We'll see. Soulfire increased by 20%. Infernal and Blasphemy 10%. Conflagrate 10, Immolate 10, and Incinerate 10. Now, once again, the one big thing here. So all these changes here will indeed be in on Tuesday or whenever your reset is. The changes that are on PTR right now for Affliction that we are going to be testing with these buffs. These buffs are on PTR. But these two changes right here, I guess two talents. So Focus Malignancy, the Shadowlands conduit is a talent now. It has indeed replaced Pandemic Invocation in this slot. PI has gone to here. It's gone to a rank 1 trait. Soul Tap is gone. So these two talents will be here in patch 10.0.5, which is coming out, I'd assume, in 2 to 3 weeks, probably with the Creation Catalyst somewhere around there. But these talent changes will not be in on Tuesday. Just the actual list of flat percent buffs to abilities, all the things like that. So with that, briefly being laid out, let's jump into some single target testing and see how they all look, because Destro and Aff looking pretty strong. All right, so if we're comparing Destro, Demo, and Affliction damage with the buffs, everything coming in, I think the best place to start is by running a 3.5, 4-ish minute cycle on a dummy here as Demonology playing the single target build. So we are going to play not this build. I don't know why it keeps resetting. We're going to play this build here, which has Fell Covenant, Power Siphon, Sack Souls, Portal, Tyrant Empowerments, and basically pure single target build. Now, this build's not seeing a whole lot of play in the raid. It's more or less, it's played on like Taros, maybe Sinarth, but honestly, like Aspite is better or Destro's better in those fights. The build that's seeing play is actually more the cleave-based build. It doesn't play Fell Covenant, doesn't play Sack Souls, but it has a good, solid Nether Portal, like stacked cleave profile with Implosion, with Dreadlash, with Torn Armaments, all kind of stuff, right? But in pure single target, we're going to play this build. Now, I tried to record this part of the video like 10 times because it keeps bugging out on me or whatever. Hopefully, this is the pull. We'll see. I have 11 stacks of dogs. Spoilers ahead. It won't matter. Okay, so we're going to Power Siphon with 2 imps out. Perfect. Step 1 of 80. Shadow Bolt. No bug. Perfect. We're going to open the portal. We're going to go Soulburn, Grimoire, Biofiend. We're going to Bolt. Go Dogs. Hand of Gul'dan. Bolt. Hand of Gul'dan, Trinket, Tyrant. We're going to hand twice, hope I can catch it before it expires. Hand and hand again. We did Demonic Strength. We're going to cast Shadow Bolt to catch this buff that's falling. Then we're going to start bolting. We're going to cast some hands, bolt again here. We're going to hand, we're going to Power Siphon. We're going to cast Shadow Bolt. We're going to cast Dogs. And then we're going to go Bolt. 134k Bolt. So once again, the big thing here, the burst with this build is much higher, spoilers ahead, than what Affliction and Destro can do. Because you've got big Pit Lord empowerment, you've got big Sack Souls value. If your Bolt crits, you're bursting over 100k easily, and we're self-buffed here, right? Now, the big thing with this build, you are playing Biofiend, so every single Tyrant will have a Biofiend in it. every single one. Every other one will have a Grimoire in it. Now I'm gonna try, if I remember correctly, to hold my Grimoire for Nether Portal, because, well, you know, if it's the last one of the fight, you sort of want to. We're gonna build a Tyrant here. Hand, bolt, we're gonna go hand, bolt, bolt for dogs here. We're gonna go hand. This is way out of place, I don't know why, but it's okay. We're gonna Tyrant here. We're gonna Demonic Strength, we're gonna hand. We're gonna Shadow Bolt, catch our buff here, dump a few bolts along the way. And the big thing with this build as well is maintaining Fel Covenant. If that buff falls, you do lose a decent bit of single target damage. We're gonna Power Siphon here. We're gonna bolt with Imps out, bolt again. No crits, but it's okay. We're gonna cast dogs here. And we're sustaining about 65-ish K, roughly at about the 140 mark. But the big thing with this build is that a lot of your power lies behind Nether Portal. Now if bolts crit, you can chain bolt for a while, good bolt RNG, all that, yeah, it can do a good bit of damage. But I've seen this build have bad RNG or just drop off in damage a lot based on procs, and also this build is incredibly tedious, just monotonous. It's annoying to play in single target because you have 10 maintenance buffs, you have Tyrant setups, you have all the above. So if given the option of playing a different build, chances are pretty high. Personally, I'd probably do it. Either way, so we're going to Vile Fiend here. We have Tyrant coming up. We're going to Vile Fiend. We're going to cast Shadow Bolt with 5 shards. We're going to cast a hand. Our dogs are a little out of sync. It's fine. Not the end of the world. Might have one less imp in this Tyrant. So be it. We're going to hand. We're going to pop this. We're going to Tyrant. We're going to Demonic Strength. We're going to hand and Shadow Bolt to once again catch our Fel Covenant, which is right about here. We're going to cast Hand and Gold in. We're going to cast Power Siphon. We're going to bolt. We're going to bolt again. Now you can build a few more imps there before you would dump those bolts if you really want for like more stack souls value, but it's not a huge difference either way. Cast dogs. Now the big thing here, we're sitting at about 55, 56k, which is not incredibly high, spoilers ahead, compared to the other two specs, but we have Portal coming up in about 10 seconds, so we're going to keep churning things out here. We held the Grimoire for this Portal, right? And I will say, this is on the higher end of what I've seen as far as like pure single targets in this build, so also spoilers ahead. We're going to dogs here. We're going to Siphon, launch some bolts, because why not? Bolt, sure. Cast a hand. So we have Tyrant about 25, and we have Portal off CD now. So we know, basically give it like 8-9 seconds here. We're going to start setting up our Tyrant. We have dogs off CD. Close enough. We're going to go into Portal, Soulburn, Grimoire. We're going to go Vile Fiend. We're going to bolt. Go dogs. Instant cast hand. Bolt. Hand. Rock, being Trinket. Tyrant. Hand, right into our thing here. Catch our buff again, right there. Cool. We're gonna do that. We're gonna Demonic Strength. We're gonna hand here. We're gonna Power Siphon. And we're gonna launch some bolts. And look at our damage. So big damage from Pit Lord here. 56, 57. This is our big damage dump window, right? Dogs coming in here. Max Fel Covenant, max Demon Bolts. 58, 58.3, 58.4. But we're not even breaking 60k. This is during our big dump. Now, once again, Demonology does scale better with Power Infusion, a bit better with Lust, because you get more pets in your Pit Lord, more pets in your Portal, all the above. Pit Lord RNG is RNG, but keep in mind, we'll even call it, we'll call it 58.5k. Right, it was a bit lower than that, 58.5k. Here's your breakdown. Demon Bolt, Fel Firebolt, Demon Dreadbite. The Pit Lord sitting out here, he had, okay, crit RNG, right around there, roughly. Not high, not super low. 58.5k, roughly. About the 4-minute mark. Cool. So let's take a look at Aff and Destro and see what they can do, because they're better than this. Okay, so when it comes to Affliction and single target, this is the build that I'm going to test with. The basic single target build. Then we are playing Malignancy. We are playing 1 point in Pandemic Implication as well. I will say there could be off the bat a change to this build in single target. There's a world where you might end up playing a point in Soul Rot and a point in Soul Eater's Gluttony to sync this with your Phantom Singularity basically every 45. Because of Focus Malignancy and the actual talent giving more value to Malefic Rapture. Not sure where it's going to go. We're going to test it out later on and all that stuff. Probably in a more, I guess, in-depth video looking at just Affliction in patch 10.0.5, which is coming out sometime next week. But either way, keep in mind this could be a thing. But for now, we're just playing the de facto single target build. So we're self-buffed here. We're going to go right into this. We're going to just open up. Now, okay, first off, the big thing here is maintaining Dread Touch. There's a lot of RNG with Destro when it's, or Aff, in its opener with like 2-piece, 4-piece procs, with Crescendo procs, all that. But you want to maintain Dread Touch as high as possible, as much as possible, right? And a lot of that is using Crescendo procs properly, not just burning them the moment they come up, but holding them to refresh Dread Touch while also still getting value out of them. So, that being said, We're going to open up here on a precast Haunt into a UA. Agony, Corruption, Siphon Life, drain the 3 stacks of Shadow's Embrace. There's 1, 2, 3. We'll Singularity, we'll Dark Glare. We actually got a proc, which is nice. Rapture for 1 stack, 2 stack, 3 stack, and there's Dread Touch here. I'll Rapture one more time because we got a lot of procs, why not? Dump this Drain before it falls. And the big thing here, we're in our opener, maintain Dread Touch. That's more or less the name of the game when it comes to AF and single target. We'll actually do this here, then catch the UA. Now, one thing about Affliction is that it's not as bursty as Destro is with your Infernal on pull at all. It is nowhere near as bursty as Demonology is with Pit Lord, Nether Portal, and all that when you pop that all on pull as well. We got a proc there, it was really nice. And the big thing, I've noticed it does a lot of consistent damage because you've got Dread Touch up most of the time. We're going to Singularity right here. So it's going to drop for a second here, but we're going to Singularity right here. Now, the big thing when it comes to AF CDs as well is that, so with the change to Singularity is 45, but with things changing, you're going to be popping Singularity on cooldown. And you're going to basically be holding your second Dark Glare to about the 225 mark roughly, so that you can actually line up that Singularity, the 4th one, at 225 to your Dark Glare, which is going to be pushed back a little bit. It's not the end of the world. If there's a fight where you're going to lose a Dark Glare, you can just hold like that 3rd Singularity at the 2-minute mark. But either way, aligning them at 225 is what you want to do. For the most part, besides that, maintain Shadow's Embrace, maintain Dread Touch, and just do damage, right? So now we're sitting at about 58k here. We have Singularity now. We're going to Rapture a good bit here because we actually got a lot of refunds there. Rapture, 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 Rapture again. Catch this UA. Dump this Drain. Rapture again here to catch the Dread Touch. Siphon Life. Agony. And this is the RNG of AF at times. If you get a lot of crescendo procs like this, you can get a lot of shard refunds, or more or less a lot of just shards pooled because of all the actual procs you're getting. But look at our Dark Glare here, and look at our Singularity. We're sitting about 19 seconds off Singularity, but our Dark Glare is ready to go. So we're going to hold this here for a second or two. Fresh the Agony, catch the Corruption. It's going to drop for a second, but it's okay. Catch the Haunt. Dump this Drain Soul. Dump this Drain Life. Rapture again for this. Drain. We're going to refresh Siphon, refresh Corruption, put up our Singularity, put up our Dark Glare, and here we go. We have 4 or 5 shards. We're going to Rapture a good bit. Rapture, Rapture. Catch this Haunt. Drain Soul a little bit. Pray for procs. We have our Singularity up. We're not getting them, but that's okay. It's the world we live in. Catch the Dread Touch. Do that again. A tick of Drain Soul briefly here. Catch the Dread Touch again. And we're going to go for about the 330 mark here roughly, just to see where we can land, because we're comparing Demonology once again at about the 340 mark coming out of second Nether Portal, right? But 63.5k is roughly what I've seen around this mark, give or take a couple thousand DPS. Realistically, give or take a couple procs, honestly. But not too bad. Catch the Siphon Life, catch the Corruption, Drain briefly here. We'll catch 1 Dread Touch there, refresh the Haunt, and we have 1 final PS coming up here. We'll PS about now. We got a proc, which is even better. We can Rapture, Rapture, catch dots here, Rapture before the Siphon Life falls. There's that. Refresh the UA, catch this Nightfall before it goes away. Rapture one more time, refresh the Haunt, and dump the Drain. Now, give or take a little bit, roughly, we're sitting at about 64,000 DPS. We'll call it 63.5k, right? But damage breakdown wise, Rapture, UA, Agony, Drain Soul, Corruption, Siphon Life, Fell Meteor being my trinket. The actual Brewkeeper's Blaze Ring is not doing anywhere near what it used to do, because unfortunately, Inquisitor's Gaze is now a random proc and not a passive, just permanent pet you have out, which actually nerfs the ring a good bit. But the ring does indeed proc off this trinket, so we'll see where it goes. It's also getting buffed in a few days, but either way, AF, about 3.5 minutes into a fight, sitting at roughly 63.5k in single target, which is considerably better than what it was doing previously before all the buffs and talent changes. So with that being said, let's look at Destro in single target. Okay, so when it comes to destruction in single target, keep in mind that both Conflict Rate, Conflagration of Chaos, but Conflict Rate, the ability, and Soulfire were both buffed. Now, I'm going to opt to play the Soulfire build here. You can indeed play Shadowburn into Conflagration of Chaos. I actually prefer this build more in single target, but they're both fine. When it comes to Destro in single target and hitting a dummy, though, it's hard to sort of replicate how it actually performs in, like, I guess, patchwork raid boss scenarios because of Flashpoint number 1. Now, unless you've got a whole raid hitting his dummy, you're going to chain Flashpoint for the entire duration of whatever test you're doing, because you're probably not going to go below 80% health. To a similar extent, Soulfire, why does this change like this? I don't understand. Somebody please tell me. Soulfire with Decimation this will also not go below 50% health. So decimation will also not be triggering, but I want to show how hard Soulfire can hit, because I think it's pretty cool. Chances are pretty high people just still play Shadowborn in the Conflagration of Chaos, but it's fine. We'll do what we can. So the big thing here, maximizing Roaring Blaze uptime, maximizing Eradication uptime, and yeah, just going from there. We're playing Succubus, we're playing Incarnate Icon, I have Skullbald again, and yeah, let's get that pillar out of the way, and then get into it. So we're gonna kickstart our damage by precasting a Soulfire. Hopefully somebody in chat got that, but there's that. Conflagrate, Infernal. We're gonna Chaos Bolt into a Channel Demon Fire. Gonna Conflagrate again, launch a Chaos Bolt here. Incinerate, Chaos Bolt, Conflagrate, Chaos Bolt. Big thing here, like I said, min-maxing Madness uptime, min-maxing Eradication uptime, and just mostly playing around the Bolt. Incinerate, Chaos Bolt. Now, we're going to have a window here of just being able to CDF here. We actually caught the vast majority of our CDF with Roaring Blaze. I think it was all of it, actually. We're going to Bolt. We're going to Bolt. And look at the Immolate extension there as well, because of CDF with Raging Demon Fire. Have to refresh here briefly, but we can double Bolt here as well. And like we said, compared to Aff, our burst damage is a good bit higher, right? Which is surprising, but also not surprising. So we're going to CDF here. The better order is already Soulfiring into CDF, but hey, it is what it is. Give me a big Soulfire crit here. Come on, big Soulfire crit. 105. It would have been 200k plus if it had crit, but it is what it is. Incinerate. Chaos Bolts. Incinerate. We're going to actually Conflagrate and Incinerate here because we got a free proc. Chain Madness maybe, possibly. Got it. Go. CDF. And this is the gist of it. You've got your CDF windows, you've got your Soulfire windows you want to buff with Eradication and Roaring Blaze. Same with CDF. You're trying to chain Chaos Bolts with Madness and all that kind of stuff. Now, the big thing here is that I am indeed once again running the Flashpoint Cancel macro, which is getting rid of like the permanent Flashpoint uptime in this dummy. When it comes to like, you know, single target settings, you'll have some Flashpoint value, but I have two abilities here, Chaos Bolt and Incinerate, both bound with macros that say, hey, cancel or a Flashpoint. So you'll see it popping up here briefly and then it goes away. That's actually what's happening. So we're going to double Incinerate here. We're going to Bolt to buff our Soulfire. Give me a big crit. Give me a big, come on, big crit. 187k, it's weak. It is what it is. Conflagrate. Keep bolting here. And the big thing, we're sustaining 65k roughly here, right? Which is higher than Affliction, but at the same time, Affliction's CDing roughly every like 45-ish seconds, give or take. Minor CDs with Singularity. Larger CDs every 2 minutes roughly with Dark Glare and Singularity and all that. This version of Destro only has CDs essentially once every 3 minutes with your large Infernal, right? So you're actually sustaining a good bit, but we're still a minute off of our Infernal, which is different from what it used to be, being 2 minute Infernal and all that, but it is what it is. So we're going to actually Incinerate here. We're going to Chaos Bolt. We're going to CDF to extend our Immolate, which once again probably could Soulfire first, but hey, you know, it is what it is. We're going to Bolt, I think, twice here because we're actually sort of capping on shards. Bolt, Bolt, Conflagrate, launch the Soulfire. Give me a big crit here. Big crit. Would have been 215. It is what it is. So we're going to cast a Bolt here. Now we're about 15-ish seconds off our Infernal, so we're starting to get, okay, Infernal's coming up in our mindset, right? CDF. Chaos Bolts. Incinerate. Chaos Bolt, we got a proc here to save us. Incinerate. Bolt. And Incinerate once here, refresh my actual Immolate. Put the Infernal down. Now we're sitting at about 63k when we Infernaled here. We're going to have a lot of shard gen coming in. We can just CDF here. We have Soulfire in about 10-ish seconds here. Conflagrate. This. Trying to weave Incinerates when you can for some like Burn to Ashes value. It's a bit tough because you're sitting at 4 stacks a lot with how many bolts you're casting, but you do what you can. We'll Incinerate. Cast the Soulfire again here. Give me a crit. Anything? Crit? Couldn't see it, but it is what it is. We're going to CDF. You're actually capping on shards. We shouldn't be capping on, but it is what it is. It happens sometimes with refunds. Bolt, Bolt. Conflagrate. Chaos Bolt. Going to Incinerate twice here. Might lose Madness for a second, possibly. It's going to be close. We actually, I think, caught it. Incinerate once here. Weave in our Channel Demon Fire with buffs up still. We're at about the 350 mark, and we're sustaining about 65.7k. Now, yes, that is indeed higher than Affliction by a little bit, but I will say I've seen a lot of variance between both of them. And at the same time, I do have incremental little Flashpoint ticks coming in here, which I can't totally control. It's like 4% buffs to my haste, not a crazy amount, but it is a little bit, which I'm cancel auring as much as I can, but there is a bit of Flashpoint value here as well. But the big thing, yes, we're actually sitting at 64.5k, but like I said, we're relatively close to AF. I'll keep chaining this this on for a bit longer here. We're relatively close to AF, but Destro is about a minute and a half away from CDing, where Affliction is CDing literally right now at about 4:30. So, once again, it sort of depends on... It depends on a handful of things, right? It's not just cut and dry, oh, Destro's better in single target. It might be. Once again, 3-minute CDs versus 2-minute CDs, RNG being where it's at. If you have flashpoint procs, whatever you have, it can make it, things vary, right? Things will vary. So we'll keep chaining this to next Infernal. We're still sustaining about 64k, which is surprising. Well, not at this point. I've seen it a good bit, but I mean, it's higher than what I initially thought it would be when I saw Destro buffs. But hey, they're actually pretty substantial buffs. So we're gonna bolt here, incinerate here, conflagrate here, launch a big soulfire, pray for a crit. 'Cause it's cool. Why not? The 202k, we'll take that. All right, not too bad. We're gonna bolt, conflagrate. I think I scuffed my window a bit there, but so we're about 40-ish seconds off our Infernal, and we're sitting at about 63.3k, which is literally 63.5k is literally exactly to an actual 0.1 what Affliction did in the previous iteration that we're doing here, right? So we'll chain it out a bit longer. We'll Infernal in 20 here, and Infernal will be a DPS gain like it typically is, but I mean at the same time, like, we're not going to come out at 70k. Probably come out around 64.5k, because the longer the fight goes, you know, lesser DPS overall when it comes to, like, you know, high-end parses and stuff, or just high-end damage. We'll pop our CDF here. We got some coverage, I believe, briefly. We can conflagrate. Let me dump a bolt or two here, actually. Bolt. We'll bolt. We'll soulfire. Probably going to let loose this bolt with madness, but she got it. We'll Infernal. So we're sitting at about 63.5k when we Infernal, which I'll admit actually is a bit higher than I thought it would be at this point in the test, but hey, it is what it is. Launch the CDF here. About 63.2k. We're going to bolt. Incinerate. Bolt. Conflagrate, cap on shards. We're gonna bolt. We're gonna bolt. We're gonna bolt. We're gonna incinerate. We're gonna bolt. And like I said, you can see that like this version of Destro has a lot of sustained damage with Eradication, with Roaring Blaze, with CDF doing fire damage, Conflagrate, Immolate, Incinerate all doing the fire damage, right? Your Infernal does give a bit of a bump in damage, but it's not like back in the day where it would just come down and you just chain bolts forever and ever and ever. You get some value, but like it's not a huge DPS increase is what I'm getting at, right? Launch one final Soulfire for the road. So damage breakdown wise, we'll call it 63.5k, nearly the same as AF, right? Look at the breakdown here. Chaos Bolt being 31.6%, Incinerate being 20.7%, CDF being 10.6%, Conflagrate, Immolate, Soulfire, Fell Meteor, my trinket. The ring being here, Soulfire being about 3.9 to 4%. I've seen 4.5 roughly. Once again, the target drops below half health. It'll be it'll be decimation range. Good lord. So you have like more cast of Soulfire, gain some value. I could see a world where Conflagration and Chaos is still better, but either way, max Incinerate crit 116k, max Chaos Bolt crit 132k. Your Incinerates hit really hard. They have buffed Incinerate multiple times over the course of the expansion. Roaring Blaze buffs Incinerate and fire-based damage. They keep buffing our fire-based abilities. So Chaos Bolt still hits hard. Don't get me wrong. But it's both Chaos Bolt and Incinerate that are hitting hard now. So, I mean, if you ask me what I prefer, like, yeah, having these insane just one-shot bolts destroying everything is very cool. They still hit pretty hard if you chain Madness properly. But at the same time, like, having Incinerate hitting nearly as hard is not bad when it comes to, like, cleave profiles, single target profiles, all that. Because, like, you can play CDF in single target, you can play Soulfire in single target, but if you stray away from those abilities in single target, or in any scenario, right? Your two main abilities are Chaos Bolt and Incinerate. Those are your bread and butter spells, and they're still hitting really hard. Those two abilities over half your damage in pure single target. Okay, so when it comes to the results of the testing, this is the gist of what I guess we've gotten. Now, these tests right here, these were all done the day that PTR went up a few days ago on stream, and they actually reflect what we saw here pretty well for the most part, right? So day one, we had AF sitting at about 61.5k, 65k, and 63k at about the 245 mark. We ran some longer ones, had AF sitting at about 61.2, 62k. Then we ran a 5-minute one, which probably had more RNG in its opener, better 2-piece, 4-piece procs, better crescendo procs, maybe higher Dread Touch uptime, about 63.5k at the 5-minute mark, which funny enough matches today's, let me just do this here, tonight's videos, I guess, tests, iterations, whatever. Exactly, to a T. I can't type tonight. At 63.5k for Affliction. Now, interestingly enough, we have Destro sitting at about 62k and 61k at the 340 mark, which was a bit lower than tonight's video, which was sitting at exactly 63.5k as well. But Demonology is sitting right about where it was before as well. Actually a bit higher than the other two tests, which this is pretty good RNG, at about 58.5k in roughly the same time whenever Portal expires. So as far as single target damage is concerned, App and Destro are very, very close. App has more consistent, I guess, more frequent CDs when it comes to Dark Glare every 2 minutes, roughly, Singularity every 45. Destro has the Rock every 3 minutes, your Infernal. But at the same time, Infernal's not a huge DPS gain. It helps with Shard Gen, the damage was buff in general, but you're not going from 50k to 75k when your Infernal's down. You maybe gain a couple thousand DPS, but the longer the fight goes, the less you gain per Infernal because it's more spread out over the course of a long fight, right? Now, at the 4-minute mark, Destro was sitting around 65k, I think, roughly, but we had some pretty good RNG and refunds, some pretty good crits and all that, and both of these specs are relatively, let's be honest, they're all 3 RNG heavy with Nether Portal summons, with Soul Shard refunds and crits and all that kind of stuff, with AF having just 2-piece, 4-piece procs, crescendo procs, all the above. But the thing I want to drive home here is that Affliction and Destro are both pretty solid, it appears, in single target, but Affliction is not, I can't type tonight, not getting FM or Pandemic Invocation until patch 10.0.5, end of January, right? All of these changes for Destro are in buffs are in on reset, right? Now, Affliction is also getting a couple buffs as well. Let me see. I'll spell damage buffs in on reset, right? But you're not getting Focus Malignancy or Pandemic Invocation until patch 10.1.5. And what you've seen tonight is Affliction with both the buffs and Pandemic Invocation / Focus Malignancy. Now, I will say that I think Demo could very well possibly use some buffs. It's good with PI and less scaling and all that, but I'm surprised they didn't buff Demo to a certain extent. I feel like buffing Reign of Tyranny would be a good place to start, but I don't really know if they're going to end up doing that. I'm not, let's see, was 58.5. I don't know if they're even going to end up doing that, because it is like the probably top performing spec at this point. But let's be honest, Lock's not incredible in the first place. So at the same time, Destro has longer CDs. I guess longer / lengthier, being 3-minute Infernal. 3-minute Infernal. Affliction, however, which you didn't see here, has Drain Soul Execute, which actually Drain Soul's been buffed a handful of times, which, I mean, you can't see it here, but it will provide a bit more damage. But to a similar extent, Destro also had some perma flashpoint uptime, but no decimation, which is actual Soulfire cooldown reduction, basically, when the mob is below half health. So you've got a lot of like just positives and negatives here, plus and minuses across both specs. In the end, honestly, it's probably a wash. My current sims on retail, Destro is the highest, followed by Demo and AF, but AF APLs are not even being maintained. It took somebody 5 minutes in my guild to find a couple thousand more DPS in the AF APL. So chances are pretty high with the AF buffs coming in. AF and Destro are very close to one another, but we'll see where it goes. Either way, we'll be testing out Destro on stream on Tuesday. Maybe a little bit of AF. We'll see what's up. I really want to wait for patch 10.0.5 to look at AF stuff and maybe have a more in-depth video on AF specifically next week. But when it comes to single target and extrapolating us out the 2-target stuff, for the most part, within reason, AF and Destro look really good. They've consistently beat Demo in single target in basically every test that I've run. So yeah, that should just about be it, guys. Thanks for watching. Hopefully the video helped clarify just how strong Destro and Affliction are looking in single target and just damage in general heading into next reset. Now, I want to clarify one more time that Destro's changes are indeed, everything you saw here for Destro will be live on reset. However, Affliction gets Focus Malignancy and Pandemic Invocation in the talent tree changes and all that stuff when patch 10.0.5 hits, which is not going to be for I would assume 2 to 3 weeks from now, roughly, and I believe the focus malignancy change, the talent-wise, the talent counts for about 6% of a single target increase, I believe is what I saw in the Lock Discord by Motoko. I'm not sure, but roughly it'll be a significant increase. So AF does get better on Tuesday, reset whenever it is for you, but it will be at full power whenever patch 10.0.5 hits. Now, I'm not saying Demonology is bad. Demo still scales well with Power Infusion, still scales well with Lust and things like that, and it has a really strong stacked single target prio cleave based profile. Dogs, Hand of Goldans, Demonic Strength, Spellstorms, Implosions, all that kind of stuff, right? And having Portal for Funnel is very, very big, but I think Destro and AF have needed these changes for a while. I'm happy to see them. And yeah, I guess we'll go from there. So hopefully you guys are happy too. I don't think Demo's dead. Destro's looking better, AF's looking better, and yeah, we'll see where it goes. For what it's worth, I don't think any real fights are going to be changing the rate as far as like what specs the best on them. The fights where Demo's dominating, Destro's dominating, or AF is sort of dominating, like Taros, they're going to be the same things, I'm pretty sure. They just get better at doing what they were already doing. So yeah, with all that being said, thanks for watching, guys. If I'm missing the video or you have any questions, put them down below in the comment section. I'll be sure to get back to you. Once again, any weak auras, add-ons, or profiles you saw in the video are all indeed for free on my Discord and my Twitch. If you want to hop over, links to both down below, or hop in and grab them for free. Before we end the video, once again, I want to give one final shout out to my patrons. Guys, thank you just so much for all the support on Patreon. I really, truly appreciate it. It allows me to keep doing what I'm doing, and for you guys, everything, and yeah, I really appreciate it. If you're looking at supporting on Patreon, there should be a link up here, as well as down below in the video description. So, reset day, Destro and AF, getting better. Patch 10.0.5, which I'm assuming is probably going to be on the date the Creation Catalyst comes out, which I believe is like the 23rd, something along those lines. That Tuesday, whatever that week is. If not, it'll probably be a week later. I doubt it comes out in February at any point. It's sometime this month. Hopefully we know more soon. But at that point, Affliction ascends to full power, and when it gets there, we're going to have a serious question in our hands of what spec is best in single target, what spec's best with certain just varying damage profiles, and all of that. My guild will be working on Raziath at that point. We're probably hitting Raziath next week at some point. And I mean, I think AF has some potential on Raz. Otherwise, we're playing Demo, and in the end, Demo's still fine. So we'll see where it goes. But with that being said, thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like and sub buttons below. It helps out a ton. And I will catch you all again soon on stream. Peace.